8 o'clock on the East Coast, and it's Mardi Gras. It's Fat Tuesday. I hope all of our friends, colleagues in New Orleans and Louisiana are having a good time. Wherever you might be celebrating, be safe. I have some seriously cherished memories from Mardi Gras 2 years ago. I was lucky enough to be able to go with a couple friends. I'll tell that story another time, but I hope everybody's having a great day. We got Robyn Markland on the show tonight from REDLINE Shipping and Troy Schroeder from Best Dressed Balls. A little bit of a different show tonight. A couple things went into the thought process for the show tonight. I think it's important to try different things. I think it's important to be there for friends, colleagues, each other in general. We throw around the word community a whole lot. And I think being there is part of community as well. And that played a major part in the show tonight. I don't know if we'll get into it or not, but a little backstory. Robyn pitched this show to me, and I'll be completely transparent. It's not natural or comfortable for me to give up sort of the creative control is not the right word, but the creative directing, decision-making, et cetera, on a show. But then I thought about, again, community, being there for people. It's something Robyn's passionate about. And I've gotten to know Troy a little bit in the few months that I've been here in Minnesota as well. And I couldn't think of two more genuine, empathetic, very transparent people. So anyhow, I'm excited. It's the wrong word. I'm proud to say I'm happy to see where the show goes tonight and put the trust and faith in these colleagues that have become friends and have supported me in various ways. Professionally is easy to say. Personally, it's incredible. Both the welcome to Minnesota that I've gotten, the welcome to Tinley that I've gotten. Robyn was the first sort of big corporate sponsor to take a risk on me. So all of those things I don't take lightly. So I'm happy to spend this evening, very specifically talking about the loss of Brian Barczyk, a loss to the industry, a loss to Robyn personally, and some other things that go on with loss and grief and coping. And then most importantly, I want to make sure that we get to it tonight is looking forward, because loss and grief are dark and difficult, but ideally there's the light on the other side too. So we're going to see where tonight goes, but thank you all for being here. Thanks for Robyn for the idea and again, the passionate pitch, and for Troy for being here tonight too. I know he has a lot to add. I was going to say, I think he does. I know he has a lot to add. I've had enough experiences with Troy now, which aren't that many, but to know that he's the right guy for a third guest or a third person on the show tonight. A couple quick announcements in Proper Royals world. Speaking of Robyn and REDLINE, let me see, it wants to focus on my eyes. Will it focus on it? It won't. It looks way better, I promise, in person. That is, there's the Proper Royals patch. Those will be available at Tinley. Come by the booth. That's Project REDLINE. The sash bags that have the Velcro on them. It's kind of neat. Mine, at least, has a backing that you could stitch on anything, but I've found that it fits on kids' backpacks, shoelaces, my snow caps, my wool, call them scally caps. Anyway, I hope you like them. If you want some, come talk to me. I have tons. New shirts are in. They're the same old shirts, but they're new ones. The same design. They're in. I'll have a full stock of men's and women's shirts. I'm proud to say my women's shirts have a women's cut to them, so you don't look like a little boy wearing a shirt unless you want to look like a little boy wearing a shirt. That's also cool too. But the shirts are in. This weekend, speaking of people from Iowa, which is where Troy's from, if you guys don't know that, I'll be down in Des Moines, Iowa at the Cold-Blooded Expo show. Des Moines on Sunday, February 18th, 17th, 18th, February 18th is the Des Moines show. The following weekend, the following Sunday, I will be in Rothschild, Wisconsin at the Scaled Up Expo. The following weekend, I will be at Ed and Emily from Snake Discovery, their show in Hastings, Minnesota. Week off, then Tinley, home, then Green Bay, Wisconsin, Scaled Up Expo. 5 shows, 6 weeks. Here we go. So come see me on the road somewhere. I hope to get to see you if I haven't met you in person. And if I've met you before, come see me again. We will get to all the sponsors tonight as well. I apologize to the sponsors. Their logos don't show when there's 3 guests. So I owe you another show on our deal. How about that? You're still going to get your promo. Descriptions are still down below. As well as the Proper Royals LinkTree. That'll take you to the Patreon group. That'll take you to Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all the different ways that you can follow me, figure out how to buy snakes from me, interact with me. There's no price to interact, no fee for admission to interact. Just shoot me an email if you want. That's on there. So thanks for being here. It's a special show, and I'm proud to have these gentlemen. I'm also, I got to say, like, obviously you all know if you watch the show, I work very hard at this show and at this industry. I take it as a huge compliment. I'll tell you, I don't think I'm spilling any beans here. Being live is not Robyn's favorite thing. He would much rather an interview that we can edit and retake. So, and then just for a show of this magnitude, the faith that these 2 guys have put into being here with me, that means a lot. So that's pretty validating, and I appreciate that as well. If you don't know Robyn Markland, industry icon, he wouldn't say that, but I will. With REDLINE, shipping has changed reptile shipping and our industry as we know it. I love the idea of, and especially working with them, but I love the idea of industry sort of interrupters or disruptors. And REDLINE just does it better. I mean, you guys have heard me I've talked ad nauseum about it. If you're not familiar with REDLINE now, you should be. But if you're not, stick around. You'll probably hear a little bit about REDLINE. And then Troy at Best Dressed Balls, fantastic ball pythons. Troy has great inventory, great stuff. Buy a snake from him, no problem. What might not know and might not see about Troy is how much he works in the community, putting together dinners, checking on everybody at the shows, working on everybody's social media with them, being very giving of himself. He has his own podcast called Late to the Mic with Patrick from Chimera. And I apologize, the other name is escaping me, from Canova. I mean, geez, why even stop by Proper Royals, right? So I'm very humbled, thankful to have both of these gentlemen here tonight. Without further ado, they've both been on the show before, so please welcome back to the Proper Royals stage, Robyn Markland from REDLINE and Troy Schroeder from Best Dressed Balls. Gentlemen, cheers. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks, Adam.
Hey, thank you guys.
Good to see you, Troy.
Good to see you.
It's like the meeting of the beards here.
Yeah.
We have short, medium, and long.
Well, we're all almost on the same pace of, the old noggin as well. I see I'm the odd man out, but give me a couple years. I'll be right there with you too. I promise that.
That's how it works.
So, aside from the thanks and all of that, Robyn, tell us a little bit about the framework for your vision for tonight. Like I said, being very transparent, you pitched the show to me, and I thought it was, and I don't mean it in a patronizing way. I found it very brave of you. This is new territory for you, and probably uncomfortable a little bit, and I understand that. But what was your hope for tonight?
I wanted to reach out to you. I thought you might be a good conduit and a good sounding board and a good guiding force for a conversation, and also a way to wrap in other members of our community and our family into the conversation. We've all kind of cycled through the Brian Barczyk loss. It's really, I've not seen a loss in the industry that's hit this hard. And there's been, some giants and some legends in the industry, but the timing of this being 2024 and the reach of social media and the reach of podcasts and this kind of thing. It seems like a first for me that someone that had this kind of impact and this kind of what's going to be a real legacy has passed. And when I shared my thoughts on that, when I shared some of the challenging posts as Brian was going through his cancer battle, for those that don't know, Brian had pancreatic cancer, which is a tough one. I started to get a lot of feedback from people, which is not unusual. You know, being in our industry, in the reptile world, it's a solid industry. It's, you know, $100 million for sure. But it's also very small in the end.
Mm-hmm.
And we're pretty tight knit. And, you know, you end up knowing a lot of people and you end up creating a lot of relationships. And those things have a lot of impact. And so as I'm trying to deal with Brian's process, like I said, I get feedback from other people. And it just seemed like it was very humbling and it was very powerful to hear people talk about what he meant to them and the impact he had or the inspirational aspect that he had. And then once he passed, you know, a few weeks ago, that outpouring of emotion and support and love had a different kind of impact on me.
Mm.
And so I thought, number one, I'm having kind of a hard time processing it. And so I thought, boy, it would be interesting to have a conversation about it and to talk about it and kind of share where I'm at with it. I reached out to Troy because I've had some deep conversations with him, and I found him to be very compassionate and empathetic, kind of like you had mentioned earlier. He's just a really thoughtful guy, and he, you know, he did check in on me once in a while. So to add just a little bit, an extra layer of life's craziness, you know, we've been dealing with Brian's process for a year. You know, early last year's when he got diagnosed, and that was quiet for quite a while. But I'm very close with Brian and with Lori and have been forever. And so I was in the loop, and he had reached out to me and let me know. And we didn't know, with pancreatic cancer, you don't know what's going to happen. Sometimes people get diagnosed and 2 weeks later they pass. It happens that quickly. Mm-hmm. And so I was really afraid. Sometimes people recover from it, and sometimes people live a year or two at an extended time. So we didn't know what was going to be with Brian. So we spent time that whole year watching that process unfold and watching his battle. It got worse late in the year. You know, his treatment stopped. He stopped doing the chemotherapy because nothing was helping. Like, that was just it. Maybe try some experimental stuff, and I don't believe he even got to that. And then Christmas Eve, my 86-year-old mom had a fall in her assisted living apartment and hit her head and had a brain bleed. And so she ended up in the ICU. And she had been, you know, fairly independent and getting along okay. But after that, that kind of sent her ass backwards into full dementia. And she thought at that point it was 1978 and I was 8 years old, which was a surreal experience. Mm-hmm. And then a couple of weeks later, Brian entered hospice care. And that was a pretty significant step, because essentially he's going home from the hospital to spend his last few days with his family and be under hospice care. And the day after he entered hospice, my mother entered hospice. And it lasted not even 2 weeks. And then Brian passed, I think it was on a Monday. And then my mom passed the next day. And you just get this, sometimes just this hammer from life. And it just makes me wonder, how much tougher can shit get? Like how, why does it all come crashing down at once? And as I explained to you guys, previously, I'm 54 years old. This is my first real close loss in my life. And it just happened to be two at the same time, a very dear friend of mine and then my mom. And so I had a really hard time processing. I'm still processing it. I'm still trying to deal with it and learn to carry it and move forward with it. But yeah, I thought with all the outpouring through the REDLINE page and the Reptile Report page, the profiles online and stuff of people sharing their stories about losing their mother or their father recently, or losing their father last year or their brother last year. You got all these stories. And then another member of our community, Stan, at Sea of Serpents, lost his wife to cancer.
Yeah.
In the same fucking period.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, it just makes you think. And I thought, well, fuck, if I'm going to think through it, I might as well lasso Troy and Adam and drag them in and make them think it through with me. That's what I did. I reached out to you guys.
Happy to be part of the team.
Thank you. You're welcome.
So if people didn't know the context before, this isn't just a Brian from a distance kind of thing, or a, hey, let's get some clicks and talk about what hurts. Like this is raw. This is real, fresh, honest stuff. And I don't think my goal tonight wasn't content for the sake of content. It was an opportunity for community. I don't know what the metrics will do. I don't care what the metrics will do tonight. That's where, if you didn't see earlier when I talked about, you hear, I don't know, needs the right word, but when people could use a little something, and if this is a little something, then that is, I'm happy to be a part of that. And thank you for that. Thanks for being so honest, Robyn. What people might not know, could you tell us a little bit about, so taking Brian from the industry icon to the close personal friend, can you tell us a little bit about the relationship that you had with Brian, and beyond just, not just, we all know what he did for the industry, but talk a little bit about your relationship with him.
Yeah, I mean, I go back to the mid '90s with Brian. He was one of that first wave of folks back in the early '90s that worked to make the breeding reptiles a career and a thing. And so that was really the first wave. And so he's always been around in my life, in my reptile life. And, you participate in the industry. We do shows. We do the Tinley shows, and we do Orlando, and we do Daytona. And we see people at shows, and there are, business peers and industry peers. But some folks you just make a connection to very quickly and become personal friends. You have this reptile thing in common, sure. But sometimes you just click with folks and you become personal friends with folks. And that's what happened with Brian. We just hit it off and started communicating outside of the reptile thing, And I would travel out to, he lived outside of Detroit. So I'd travel out to the Detroit area and stay at his house. And stay with his family, and I got very close to him and close to Lori. You sometimes you get to think you're very special, but the reality is there's a bunch of people who stayed at Brian's house because that's who he was as a guy. He was just a welcoming, friendly, loving guy. What I did see from Brian, there's a really interesting dynamic there. He was one of those bust his ass kind of guys, just always going 100 miles an hour, always after new and ambitious things. And the only way that worked and held together was because of Lori. I think she's actually the driver of that entire engine. He used to get just wild hairs about things he wanted to do, and then she would just knuckle down and see how to make them happen. But yeah, we spent a lot of personal time over the years. I've visited out there. He came out and visited me. We spent a really nice trip in Moab, Utah, which it's one of my all-time favorite places out in the Canyonlands there. And I wanted to share that with him really bad. And it took a few years to get him there, but he finally was able to tie it in with another trip. And we spent time out there, and that was really, really powerful, just to get that kind of personal time. I saw that caught me off guard and shook me up a little bit. The photo and announcement that the family used to announce his passing was a picture of him in Moab when we were there. I mean, I was 4 feet away from him when they took the picture. You don't anticipate that kind of stuff popping up.
Right. Were you guys out riding on I know you like to be out on bikes and all. Yeah.
No, we didn't. We did some hiking.
Oh, cool.
But he wanted to go out and do some herping.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, you're out in the desert, right?
Yeah, and so much of the focus of his life was on his YouTube channel. And so, every day when he wakes up, it's about what are we going to film today? And back then, that was when he was doing a video every single day of the week. And man, I tell you, man, that is not my life. I have no desire for that. I've got no envy for that. It is a grind. And I remember early 2000s when he started, doing his YouTube videos. I thought it was ridiculous. And just, kind of a silly waste of time, but that's because I'm sometimes not smart that way. And instead what was happening was he was becoming a pioneer for the entire platform,
right.
The animal side. He did it once a week for years, and did not miss a week for something like 5 or 6 years straight. And then he changed to going every single day, and he didn't miss a day for years. He had a video every single day. And there's lots of other content providers and folks that do reptile videos. Some are great, some are not great, but nobody has the consistency and ability to do it like he did it. It's a very, very challenging thing, and that was one thing that maybe we can get into a little bit later. Like, is there somebody else that can step up and fill that void? I don't know that there is. It's a very difficult and unique thing that he was able to do, and bring in just literally millions of people into our hobby. So I don't know where I'm meandering from your question, but I spent a lot of personal time with him, and I found him to be a very genuine, passionate dude. His passion was 100% real. And so is Lori.
How old was Brian when he passed?
Early 50s, like me.
Yeah.
And he and Lori were high school sweethearts.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I found, which maybe we'll touch on later, but where cancer's touched my life, the biggest thing, the most frustrating thing to me was the inevitable, what if, and it felt so premature, if I'm lucky enough to make it to 80 and one day a train gets me, okay, hey, I had a good run and hopefully I've lived a full life. Early 50s, man, I don't know what happens after you're on this earth, but I got to feel like I'll be tormented and pissed off if I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I'll feel like there was unfinished business, and I'm sure you feel that way. Did Brian, did that ever get into Brian's head? I don't want to get too emotional and put words in his mouth, but I'm sure that there was a internal battle that he struggled with, just looking at himself in the mirror going, damn it, whether business or otherwise, just family, just time with his wife,
Yeah. I mean, I'm 54 and it's only in the past 5 or 6 years you feel like, oh, I think I'm figuring this shit out. This life,
yeah.
Right?
Right. Yeah. Right.
Your 20s and 30s, just blindly shooting in the dark, just clumping through life, tripping over shit. And only now I feel like I'm starting to figure it out. And so to think that all of a sudden that would be the end, yeah, that's pretty catastrophic. For Brian, he and I had different outlooks on life and the legacy thing. To me, the legacy thing's not important. I want to do good work while I'm here. I want to work with great people and accomplish some great things. But 5 years after I'm gone, it doesn't matter to me whether people remember me or not. For Brian, that was really important. And I totally respect that. He wanted to have a legacy. He wanted to make what is essentially a generational impact. And I think he accomplished it. I think 30 years from now, we'll be still talking about Brian Barczyk in the reptile world. They're not going to remember who Robyn is. They may remember who Troy is from his ridiculous jackets, but
I doubt it.
you know what I'm saying? Like it's a very unique thing to have that type of transformational impact in your world. And that's what made him so incredibly unique, and this outpouring of support and affect and love is because he had such a great impact on people. And that, whether it's on the social media side, he's the most successful social media person that we've had, and he really developed that whole fucking side of things from scratch. To Animal Con, as that continues. And so, yeah, I think he'll be known and talked about decades from now. And that was important to him. He wanted to achieve that. That's why, that's part of the reason why he named the new facility and aquarium the Legacy Aquarium.
Right.
Is because that's important to him.
Mm-hmm. And Adam, to like what you were just talking, Brian and I were never nearly as close as Robyn and him. Brian and I met at Tinley a couple of times. We talked. He commented on my jacket once. Obviously that sticks out. So, but my truck got broke into in California at the Reptile Super Show, and he was one of the first guys to reach out to me. And I was kind of taken back a little bit, right? Because how busy he is.
Yeah.
And, obviously Robyn's talked, right? He's making videos every day, and obviously he's running a zoo and breeding and life and kids and his wife. And so I was really taken back that he took the time, and that really kind of sparked a bit of a friendship between the two of us. And you've got to know me a little bit. Robyn knows this about me. I'm not really afraid to ask questions. And so, he and I had a couple pretty good talks. The thing that struck me the most about Brian, talking about, he knew that his life was going to come to an end very rapidly. And what I learned from him is how much he embraced it. Like, I think a lot of people would turn pretty negative, right. And he every message I have with him was always in a positive way. And like, he never focused on the fact that, tomorrow might be the day, right? Like and you could see it in his videos and things like that, right? You would see him, maybe getting sicker and sicker. And yet when you talk to him, he was always so uplifting to me. And so, what a great way to look at the end of your life. I don't know if I could be that way. I don't know if I could take on what he did and, muster the courage to be the same person you were before you got that news. And I feel like I kind of feel in a way he didn't change, like nothing really changed about Brian. And so, hats off to him for being that way. And
if anything, I thought he might have got more positive and more hopeful. Like more so, because I mean, I guess you do have a choice, or you do have something. Like, to your point, Troy, if that was me in the scenario, I feel like it'd get real fucking dark.
Yeah, me too.
Real dark.
Mm-hmm.
And, I wondered about how you process those things if you're that person, right? If you're in the situation, how you deal with it or what you're going to do. And I mean, he was, dead set on getting after the Legacy Aquarium. And at the time, it wasn't even it was a building, but it was just a torn out building. It wasn't, they had zero progress.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, you're really sick and ill. And this is going to be a real fucking hard battle. and you're going to take this giant project on. Okay. Wouldn't you rather go to Grand Rapids at your, lake house that your family has and spend time with your family and the grandchildren? I think maybe that would be a great choice. But then I realized it doesn't matter what the fuck I think.
Right.
It's his choice. He can do whatever he wants to do.
Yeah.
Mm.
However he wants to deal with it, that's the right way to deal with it.
Mm.
And for him, it was about focus and about the work and about the legacy. And, he stayed on that hopeful and positive path, which is, great, which I guess now that I think about it, just now realizing, after losing Brian and my mom, my brain kind of shut down. And so I couldn't process how to deal with it. For me, I'm kind of a taskmaster. I like to have, when there's problems, I like to solve the problems. I have a very hard time leaving them open. And so as I'm watching hospice and Brian moving through that and my mom moving through that, and I can't fix it, that's a fucking problem for me. And my brain just locks up. And, essentially I just wanted to run away because I can't fix it. And that was really hard. But I guess I did sort of like Brian. I just turned to work.
Yeah.
And focused on work.
Yep.
It's like, let me get after this. Let me chase down some late packages and let me work on REDLINE project stuff and, design some patches and anything to take my mind off of, am I going to go see my mom tomorrow? What's that going to be like? And how's that interaction going to be? And that was real fucking difficult. And fortunately, I had my wife, Nikki, to essentially drag me along and show me the way to deal with it and to talk about it. She's a much better human being than I. She's much more capable than I. So
she's prettier too.
She's a lot prettier than me. But after Brian got diagnosed, I mean, he certainly was hopeful and positive, but he also focused really hard on work. He kept working. And
I think for a lot of people that seems, I don't know if that's normal, but you hear that a lot, right? Like certainly people in my life, my dad, losing parents and things like that. Like I remember him being pretty hyper focused on work and just as you're saying, Robyn, like, we've all experienced loss in some way. And I certainly know that anytime you can keep your mind occupied on something that has to get done, like work, versus like being in the car for 2 hours, like then it's all I think about, and you're probably still going through that, especially I think with your mom. Like I'm sure there's times where you find downtime and it easily drifts into your mind, I think, and it's very easy to get caught up in all the grief. But I think that's important too, right? You have to find a way to process through it. Because if you don't, like you never process it, that's bad too. But it is nice to find something to focus on to, try to help you get through those days until it's easier.
Brian struck me as someone in life that idle time probably didn't fit. I never met Brian. I didn't know him. But from seeing his outpouring of work, his passion about what he was doing, it seemed like he was somebody who didn't do well with idle time. There was going to be a purpose and a drive and something he was going after. Did that get, to Troy's point, did that get magnified when the cancer came, when the diagnosis came, do you think? I mean, was it almost like there was a deadline, like, hey, this got to get done, man. Then we're going to get it done.
I think so. And that Legacy Aquarium is a giant project. And it was very, very ambitious. And I mean, right now it looks like it'll open in, hopefully April or May. And we may be actually seeing Lori at the Tinley show coming up to talk about the Legacy Aquarium and help promote that and push for the opening, which would be great. I'd love to see Lori in person. We went out and visited with them after the fall Tinley show. I went out with Brian Potter and Bob Ashley, and we went out to spend just a day and check in. And at the time, I thought Brian looked great. He really did. He looked good. We had a great day. It was a long day, which surprised me because we were all thinking like maybe we'll get 2 hours, maybe 3 hours, and we'll probably exhaust him and he'll need to go rest or just take a break. We went from fucking first thing in the morning till the end of the night. We had 2 different meals with Brian, and in his previous life, he was not a big eater. He wouldn't eat during the day. He would only eat dinner. He was kind of nutty about food. And so here he is, he's sick and he's thin, and he had a full lunch and he had a full dinner. And I thought, wow, shit, this is fantastic. He looks great. I love him with his short hair. Lost his 1988 ponytail. I love that progression. And I was really hopeful after that. And then later in the day, he shared with me, and he was like, I was like, how are you feeling? Do you need a break? Can we take a break or whatever? And he said, well, depending on the moment, I'm having some pain. And it was the fucking craziest thing. I'm not sure if it was related to medications or what was it, but he had kidney stones. It was like on top of your cancer issues, life has thrown kidney stones at you. And he's like, man, it's so fucking painful.
Yeah.
And I passed a couple, but I got a couple more. And I was at the doctor yesterday, and I was just like, good Lord, man, you just catching it from all sides. And, and when you watch his videos throughout the year, most of the time very positive and again, very hopeful. And then I would text him and check in, and he would tell me that he went the whole night without sleeping. And that was because the pain was so heavy that he couldn't sleep. Like, you can't sleep at night, so you can't rest because it hurts that bad. And no drugs, no opioids, no painkillers, which he was very adamant didn't want to take, but there was nothing they could give him that would make the pain go away. So to listen to your friend say that the nights are the hardest because you can't sleep, not because you're insomnia or whatever, because of the pain, that was hard. But he didn't show that to the public. I don't get it. I don't understand how you can be that fucking strong and not reveal that. But yeah, he didn't show that to the public, but he was in a lot of pain in those times. Which gives you that weird thing later, where I felt the same with my mom, and that I'm happy in many ways that they've passed, because I know that he's not in pain anymore. And I've been spending time with my mom the past few years, and she's been through the some of the dementia stuff and Alzheimer's type stuff, and just really unhappy with quality of life. And so to have them be able to move past that point into some peace is I found some kind of odd happiness there.
I wrestled really, really, really hard with that. People that don't know, my mother had ovarian cancer. For 10 years she survived. 10 years she fought that. And then the hospice call came one day, and it was another 6-7 weeks. I took a leave of absence from my work, and I was her primary caregiver. I was administering morphine, opioids to her. And there is a relief that comes to mind that makes no rational sense in your heart to go, thank God that's over for her.
Yeah.
And I wrestled, man, it still is raw. This happened in 2010. So it's this will be 14 years, and it just hits me. There's still days I pick up my phone like I'm going to call my mom, and I'm like, you idiot, she's gone, she's not here.
Yeah.
And but you talking about that really, yeah, that's something I wrestled with, and I didn't get there nearly as quickly as you have, where you said you could be at peace with that. The piece that I did find, and I was going to ask about it, and I don't know the details of the time that you did or didn't get with your mom. One of the things of beauty that I did find was that we knew that there was an end game. So any conversations that needed to be had, we had them. I'm thankful that she got to meet the woman that would become my wife, who's Kelly. Mom never got to meet my son, which is a pretty heartbreaker, but everything else that we could control, conversations, we had them. There was nothing. I mean, it was, she would stare me in the face and go, there's nothing I'm taking to the grave. We're having it out, and that's the kind of mom that she was. And so I was wondering, was there, benefits the wrong word, but was there any beauty or blessings in knowing that there was a finite time? Because one of the things I'm so scared about is that maybe my father will pass and I'll never know that it's coming.
Mm.
So as hard as it was to know, it sort of forced some clarity. It forced some resolution. That's the word I'm looking for.
I only found that with perspective after the fact. To know that Brian was struggling, to stop getting text messages, and to know that he's in hospice or my mom's in hospice. There's just unknowns there,
Yeah, of course.
And I asked the nurses, and how long, what does this mean? How long does this go? It could be 2 days, and it could be the rest of the year. You don't know.
Right.
So there was no, like I said earlier, my personality wants to solve the problem.
Yeah.
And have some finality to it, but it wasn't possible. And then there was that really difficult period at the end for Brian. Like I said, when I didn't get messages anymore, and we knew that he was in hospice, but it was good 4 or 5 days. We didn't know his status, if he's still here with us or not. It's certainly not the family's obligation to fill us all in.
Right.
On what's going on, but I sat in bed every night wondering if he's still here. I composed, a text message to him, and then I erased it because I didn't know, that was just for me. You just try to find some sanity and some clarity and some peace for yourself. But I didn't want to send a message and have Lori get it, and he's passed 2 days ago, and here I am like a fucking asshole sending a text message. But yeah, that unknown part is very, very difficult for me. Really hard.
Yeah.
Robyn, do you feel like do you feel like you got to say goodbye to Brian?
No, there was no goodbye. But that's okay. That's okay. I think that's okay for both of us. We shared a very strong, long hug in that visit after Tinley.
All right.
And I think we knew what that was.
Mm-hmm.
I said some things in his ear that only he heard. Oh, Troy, you fucking jerk. So it wasn't spoken like that, but it was a goodbye. I figured this is probably it.
Yeah, I mean, like what Adam was talking about a minute ago, like there's something about being able to say goodbye to somebody versus just finding out you lost a family member or a friend or whatever. Obviously, to me, that's worse, right? And I think anybody would say the same thing. And so like with your mom, I certainly haven't gone through that, man. I told you guys earlier, I lost my biological dad. He was 54, had a brain aneurysm, but I still felt like I got to say goodbye because I got to stay in this room and like he was hooked up to everything. But I got the opportunity to like get it all off my chest to him, right? And I had an aunt in hospice that died from breast cancer. Like same thing. Like I got to say goodbye, and Adam, you said about like, afraid about losing your dad and stuff. My mom and dad are 87 and 85. Everybody in my mom's family died from cancer. Her brother, sister, I think like a half sister or so on. And then my dad, the people. So I should probably make this clear to everybody. I'm adopted. And so I lost my biological dad. I know my biological mom, but my parents who have had me from 2 days old to now, are 87 and 85. And I'm so fearful of losing them. And there's like this weird thing in my head where I hope, it seems weird to say, I hope I get the opportunity to say goodbye. I don't want to lose my parents on just some whim, and so it's weird to think about those things. And, they're at that age where they're in such great health, but you just never know. And it's something that crosses my mind every single day, and so then I hope in my time, right, like I can turn to people like Robyn and yourself and stuff that have gone through this, right, and know how to navigate some of it. So, there's little blessings I think there that you guys go through, hell and back losing a parent, and someday you get to maybe pass on some of that navigation to somebody like me.
Yeah, I found, it's just as cynical as it sounds, just actuarially speaking, just data, how circle of life goes. We all are going to lose our parents if we're lucky. Hopefully no parents see their children go, right? I mean, there's a pattern here that we want to have happen. You'd think there'd be a damn manual for it or something, but there's not.
Yeah.
And
my parents lost a child, had to bury a child.
My mother was passing, both of her parents were still alive. And so I was watching both my mother pass away and die of cancer, but I was watching her parents watch her. And that always struck me too. And I wondered a lot if I was being selfish in my emotions, if I was being, all those things that don't have a good answer and that we put ourselves through. That's just a hell that we put ourselves through. No, I first off, anybody would be welcome to contact me anytime if they thought I could be helpful. But there's friends that have unfortunately gone through similar things since then, with losing a parent to cancer, or just losing a parent, just going, how long does it take, Adam? And I go, well, I don't know. It takes a long time, man. And it's never the same. There's a new normal, but there's not the old normal. And I think, Robyn, I think I told you on the phone, I don't know. It's been within the last 6 months. I was in the grocery store one day, not even thinking about Mom. And I walked down the wine aisle and I saw the wine that she always drank. And I could cry right now. I mean, I just started crying in the grocery store, and I was like, well, I guess I know what I'm having with dinner tonight, but it just things out, and it wasn't even great wine. It's just a Bogle. I'm a sommelier and I'm sitting here talking about buying Bogle's Infidel,
I think
go ahead.
I think it's okay that everybody processes it differently.
Yeah.
Some people you can sound off on and they can give you applicable sage advice. Other people give you advice that doesn't apply whatsoever to your personality or to your outlook. You guys, or Troy specifically, you want to say goodbye. I don't want to. I'm a little bit on the spectrum. I'm a little neurodivergent. I have a hard time processing emotional cues, and I have a hard time expressing those kind of things sometimes. And that's where my wife, Nikki, was so helpful, sitting with my mom, because you just freeze up. And to have to say goodbye I don't want any part of that. I'm very, very comfortable with the fact that I hugged Brian goodbye. I did not say goodbye. I didn't say, hey, this is the last time I'm going to see you. I just said, I love you. And so even with my mom, visiting her the last night, they told us, she's starting to transition, is what they said. Her eyes aren't opening. She's mumbling, not really super coherent, on a lot of good drugs. And they said she's transitioning, which means she's moving to that final door. And so I figured this might be the last night, but I didn't say goodbye. That's not for me. And I think that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because just like Brian has to face his process of moving to that final fucking door, and Lori has to face that process of losing her high school sweetheart. And you have to face the process of losing your parent. You got to do it. You got to do it with what works for you. And hopefully, I guess in the end, months and years later, there's no regrets. But man, it sure seems like you can't be a fucking pro at this.
No,
I think everybody stumbles through it, right? Just to do your best and handle it as best you can.
One thing I would say to anybody, because I hear it a lot and I went through it a lot too. Like you say, you hopefully there's no regrets, but there's almost inevitably regrets. Some regrets going to come up.
Yeah.
But you got to be fair to yourself. You can't hold yourself. There's a guilt that goes with some of this sometimes. And it seems like the closer you are to somebody, the stronger that guilt is of, could I have done more, or I think you're handling it incredibly well, but how come I didn't say this or that, or some uncontrollable thing that could never have rationally been handled that sticks in your mind and just craws at you like, man, if I had one do-over, I would do that differently. And I finally was able to, so my mom was an incredibly strong person, and I hope we all say that about our moms, but to me, she was incredibly strong to me. I told her and I told myself I would never look away. And that was sort of my mantra, never look away, because I won't get this time back again. No matter how awful the time is, it's the time I have with my mom and I won't get it back. But also in her death, I've held to that of never look away. So when you called or texted or whatever it was, got in touch, I was like, this is one of those moments, man. Never look away. If a friend is in need, you never look away. If there's an opportunity, no matter how tired you are, to be empathetic to what somebody else is going through. Again, I'm not preaching to anybody else. This is me, my own thoughts. To never look away. And that's been a lot of my coping and how I sort of figured that out, and how I figured I could be honorable to her as well and be that strong.
You made me think of something, Adam, that, when we discussed how different people process. And when I was there sitting with my mom and she's in, her bed, and my wife was there. And like I said, I just didn't understand what to do and how to deal with it. Right. And then Nikki went and sat by the bed and she had her process. And she held her hand and she got her brush and she brushed her hair because she said, she always hates it when her hair is messy.
It's such an intimate thing to do too for somebody.
Very,
really,
yeah. And then she held her hand and she just started talking to her. And I wasn't, there was no indication that she was understanding what Nikki was saying or responsive, just, this transitional thing. But she talked about some of the things they did in the past and how much she appreciated her, how much she admired her for being such a strong single mom and working so hard. And I was just flabbergasted. I was looking at Nikki and I was like, holy shit, this is what an actual human being does. Okay. Because I just didn't, it just didn't occur to me but again, everybody's different process, and it was something to see somebody with outward compassion and empathy and consideration be able to process it too. But I just couldn't get there myself. I just, my moments were only silent, only quiet. And then, you know, to take it in a little different direction, Troy, I'm adopted as well. So
Wow.
it would be
I did
really
not know that.
wild if we ended up to be brothers.
Well, I feel like you're kind of a brother anyways.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. That's its own experience. But yeah, I just thought I forgot that you were adopted, so I can identify with that.
Wow. Troy, I know you've been pretty forthright in the few times that you and I have both met in person, but also interacted, and I'll let you share or not share whatever you'd like. I think you got some experience in looking forward and looking, what's the word? Having gone through various processes of grief and maybe on a higher level than some others of us have. I've been fortunate. I'm a pretty typical straight white dude in America. Like I've had a pretty good life. I can't complain. So, but again, without divulging things that you could do on your own, if you wish, what have you learned about looking forward? What have you learned about, you know, things that happen, things that you experience, and then things that could still come your way?
Yeah, you know, in my life, I've fought depression most of my life. I was extremely suicidal as a teenager. My mom and dad put me in a mental hospital, you know, multiple therapists and so on. And so later, as life has went on, as from, you know, 14 to now 46, wait, I'm 45, I'll be 46. You lose friends in that aspect, in that way. And I've lost a fair amount of family members to suicide. I've lost entirely too many friends to suicide. And you know, you in some ways you're desensitized to some of it. At the same time, like going through each one of those experiences, you know, I feel like I've taken something away from it. And I hate to say this, like, I don't know really how to say this any other way, but I have found joy in like finding a way to help other people going through that, and being maybe a soundboard or somebody that they can turn to. And you know, that's not an easy subject for anybody. And for whatever reason, in my own mind, I feel like I'm well versed in it. And so, you know, you find ways to look forward, and you find ways to, you know, try to help people, you know, navigate that, you know, tragedy. And you know, I don't know if off the bat, you know, what direction I can really tell you guys all now. Kind of a spur of the moment. A lot of things, you know, sometimes, or when that moment happens. We're going through that a little bit right now. My wife and I, like, I have a very close friend through childhood to now. Her name is Jamie. Her brother recently shot his wife and shot his mother-in-law, killed them both, and then shot himself. And you know, she's going through two different sets of you know, she has people that think her brother's this monster of a man, and he wasn't. You know, and the other side is you lost your sister-in-law, who she was very close with, and she's tackling a lot of different grief right now, and you know, trying to help her. You know, it's just so hard to try to explain to somebody, like, you know, get through today, right? And tomorrow's a new day, and we all say those things, and regardless of how we all feel about it, at the end of the day, time gets you to a point where I don't think it ever heals. For any loss, whether you lose your mom to cancer, you know, or a car wreck or whatever, I don't necessarily believe time really heals any of this. You know, I think grief is forever, and I think you find a way to deal with it differently. And you said earlier, and I keep saying I keep saying this phrase to my friend Jamie: you have a lot of new normals. And so you find a different new normal to your life when you lose anything, in this way or in any way. And so yeah, it's interesting to go through all of those. I certainly feel like for a 46-year-old man, there's things that I feel like sometimes I should write a book, but I'm not very. My GED won't allow me. And I deal with a lot of this stuff with humor. Like
Right.
I said that in the chat earlier. Like even for other people, I remember walking into Lisa's grandma's funeral and Lisa's sister saying, "Thank God Troy's here." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Because she'll make me laugh." And it's touching. To have people feel that way, that maybe you can bring some joy to their life when they're going through something really tough. And so I find humor the easiest way for me to deal with a lot of situations, especially grief. It's probably my go-to.
Mine too.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, that'll piss your wife off something awful. I've discovered.
Yeah. Yep.
She doesn't appreciate it in the same way that Troy might. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think isn't that one of the things that I've certainly take away is, as hard as the situation might be, as heavy as the weight and the struggle might feel, man, I mean, you look a little bit deeper and everybody is carrying some weight of their own. Like people around you are carrying a weight as well, and they're carrying a struggle as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's got something. Yep.
The old Bob Marley quote, every man's burden is the heaviest. To me, my burden is the heaviest.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
It feels heavy to me. Mm-hmm. But the depth of that quote is that exactly that. It feels heavy to you. But if you look at Troy's friend, holy fuck, my burden's not that heavy. That burden is heavy. That burden's really, really heavy. And so it helps to give you perspective that, okay, I can carry this because other people are carrying much heavier shit than this. I can get through this. And it actually makes me think of something I talked with Brian when he revealed his cancer to me. We were talking on the phone. And it's a really, crazy thing to call somebody and give them such news. But an hour into it, I told Brian, man, you are really lucky though, right? And he did not understand why. But I said, you're really lucky to go through this way. There are literally millions of people that will support you. There's an outpouring of love that's coming. You don't know it because it's not public yet, but I'm telling you, it's coming. Mm-hmm. And you have a support network in your immediate family, aside from the industry and the social media stuff, that's there for you. And I said, and you're financially stable enough to deal with it as well. I said, there's another person out there going through a cancer diagnosis today that is living paycheck to paycheck and doesn't have health insurance and doesn't have anybody in their life to support them on this. So you're actually really lucky that you'll be able to fight this as best you can with just a ton of different weapons and a ton of different support. And in later on in videos, I heard him kind of reference that conversation about, I'm so lucky and I have all this love and support. And sometimes the perspective is just so important. And that every man's burden is the heaviest. It feels very real heavy to me. Mm-hmm. But I understand that other people are carrying other burdens that are just as heavy and even more difficult. So I can get through this and I can move forward. And I text with Lori after Brian passed, and we shared some thoughts. And I expressed my love and support to her. And she said, at this point, all we have to do now is move forward. And that's what we have to do now, is move forward. Do our best with it and move forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, I being a member of Gamblers Anonymous, not that we need to go down that whole trail. That whole thing is done at one day at a time, right? That's like the motto, one day at a time, and that's carried out a lot to the grieving process for me too. Like in the past 8+ years that I've been in that program, how much just that little phrase means, even in this type of stuff, right? Like it's just one day at a time, and you know, if you get through today, you got tomorrow, and just keep at it, right? So that's one thing that helps me move forward is I just have to figure out how to get through today.
One thing I found from again, one of the silver linings, I would never call cancer a blessing. One of the silver linings of Mom's experience, and she was healthy enough to live pretty functionally for a long time. So, but with her carrying the burden of cancer, she lived like an exhausting pace. I mean, every day was, I mean, we hear the cliches that every day is a gift and every day is, you know, could be her last, but she slept at night because she was exhausted from everything she had squeezed out of that day. And a lot of people ask me, they're like, Adam, you kind of keep and I know I know that I'm amongst two people that probably outwork me, but a lot of people don't outwork me. And I work like crazy and I do a lot and I go hard, and then I'll go play gigs at night and I'll get up and do it again. And, you know, people say you're happy and how do you keep it up? That rubbed off on me. Like, we only get one shot at this, whether I'm almost 59 when cancer took her. So whether I make it to 59 or 99, I want to squeeze everything I can get out of the day. And I know it, again, I know it's cliche, but I don't take any day for granted. I wake up and I don't know if prayer is the right word, but I give a little thanks that I'm alive and I woke up that day, and it gives me like a little bit of joy of like, okay, well, you got today. You didn't, somebody else didn't get today. So what the hell are you going to do with it? And I think that's part of what excites me about this show. It's what excites me about this community. It's a way that I can meet and interact with people. I've talked a lot about when I moved here, I missed the hangouts of the shows, and there Troy came with dinner. So there we were hanging out, you know, and squeezing a little more out of the day. But that's something that's helped me cope with the loss of my mother prematurely. It was just going, you know what, maybe time isn't linear. Maybe there's a depth to it. And if there's a depth to it, she damn sure went deep on her life experiences. And I think Brian exemplified that, probably magnified that. I mean, who wakes up and goes, we're going to build an aquarium because I'm a reptile guy, but we need an aquarium too. And, you know, and I'm sure, Robyn, you're going, well, yeah, that's the most Brian thing that there ever could be. But to the rest of us, we're going, what is going on here? And not to that magnitude, but when it came to traveling and just experiencing life and the very most of it, that was her. And that's really kind of stuck with me. So people that ever ask me, like, why do you do what you do with the speed and determination you do? It's because of that. What else? I'm going to waste a day? Screw that. You know,
I waste days all the time.
Me too.
I'm glad you can address it that way, Adam. I get up sometimes, I'm like, fuck, I don't want to do it today.
I can't say I'm successful at it, and it's always the best thing, but it's also a kick in my own ass. And sometimes not wasting a day means spending extra time with my son when I have the urge that I should be working and tackling tasks. And I go, no, my son thinks having a cream soda is the equivalent of having a beer with the boys. Go have a cream soda with your son, dude. Like, that's the best. Like, okay, that's what so it's just on my mind. I'm not perfectly successful at it, but damn, I work at it. I'll tell you that though.
Yeah.
I would say thank you to you both. If there's things that we've missed, I'm certainly happy to keep at them. We've covered a lot of emotional ground and very, very raw transparency, which I'm flattered and humbled by. We all know each other, but we don't I don't really know you guys. And for you to share that with me and the audience, in an odd way, it makes me very thankful. Robyn, you put each person's burden as their own. Sometimes hearing other people's burdens doesn't make you happy at their expense, but makes you thankful for what you do have.
It's perspective. It's
Yeah.
perspective and appreciation. Yeah.
And the flip side is, I want you both to know how much I appreciate you here. Troy's suicide has touched my life. It's in the music industry and restaurant industry. There's a lot of overlap with that. For someone who's, I would say I have depressed moods and anxious days, but I have no clue what depression and clinical anxiety is. And I do know that goes hand in hand with depression with suicidal thoughts and tendencies. And I personally, forget business, anything else, I'm very thankful that you're here. And I'm thankful that however you ended up being here, whether that was by your own choice or help that was given or forced upon you. I'm very grateful for that. And I guess my last thought is, I've seen, Robyn, when you talked about Troy being here, I'm not going to say who it was, because that was their own conversation to have, but I experienced a conversation where Troy looked directly at somebody, and I think they were acquaintances, but similarly might not know each other. And he said, so tell me about your mental health journey. And I think the other 7 of us around there went, oh shit. And if anybody else had said that, it would have been a really intrusive, almost hurtful question. And you look at Troy, and there was this open, caring embrace, and it was immediately apparent that it was a safe space. And it damn near was a magic trick. I mean, it was, I'm blown away by the care that was shown in that moment. And I won't take that conversation any farther, because that was a very personal conversation with people that aren't here to discuss it. They're on this earth, thank God, but not in this conversation. And what I'm trying to say is, you're an incredibly caring, special person. And I hope you know that. And I've seen it in the very few times that we've interacted. But I thought I thought you were the perfect person to join Robyn and I tonight. So thank you for being here, for whatever all that means.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much.
I echo that. I find Troy to be incredibly generous and compassionate. And I deeply appreciate him as well. And I appreciate you, Adam. I thank you for having us on so we can have this talk. I mean, if you want to wrap it up and talk about ball pythons, I guess you can. But this wasn't a animal-specific, reptile-specific chat. But I really value it, and I really appreciate the opportunity. Thanks.
It's odd to say, but I mean it from the bottom of my heart. It was my pleasure. I thank you for the trust. Thank you for the honesty, and thank you for the opportunity from truly a personal level. I don't know what more to say, but it means a lot to me. And it as much as I say I never want to look away, sometimes I pack stuff away and I compartmentalize pretty strongly sometimes. And I never want that to be something. Yeah, I never want that to be something that happens with my mother, though. So even, I know this wasn't really about Mom tonight, but brought me some joy to spend a moment with her and think of her in those ways. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I saw a couple moments of light in your eyes, Adam. And
she was just a joy, man. Just
yeah,
oh
it's
God.
awesome.
Oof,
That's
man.
awesome. Well, gentlemen, let's keep moving forward and do some great things.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you both. I think we should leave it there. We'll wrap up the show, guys. I get back to a ball python show next week. Tonight was a community show. So
All right.
Who do you have next week?
I haven't finalized it yet. I got some invites, but I don't have it final yet. So
Okay.
I'll have it out this weekend though. I got a few people have said, yeah, you send out 7 and you have a show, Troy, you send out 7 invites and 3 of them go, oh yeah, I'll take that date. And you're like,
yeah.
okay.
Oh, well,
yeah,
can I get 2 of you to move? Yeah.
yeah, right. Yeah. So doing a little bit of that, but
why don't you have The Rock on? You talk about his new WWE position and things. That would be a good show.
If I would love to have, like, say, a vice president of WWE on sometime, international talent development. I don't know, something. Who knows? Maybe we'll make it happen one of these days. Who knows?
We'll see.
Adam, if you could interview any one person in the music industry, who would it be?
Oh man, probably. I mean, not probably. Well, no, 2 people. Well, all right. So probably one of 2 people. Either Keith Richards, who I've always sort of idolized as a guitarist, and it's probably the case of don't meet your heroes. I don't know if I would want to. He's good in that place in my mind, is what I mean. I want to envision Keith Richards as Keith from Exile on Main Street and that album. But I am a huge fan of the band Social Distortion, and Mike Ness is somebody I would very, very much like to interview. He has battled and defeated. Hopefully defeated. I know you never kind of completely defeat addiction, but he has come through heroin addiction. I've said many times, tongue in cheek, but I mean it. Punk rock saved my life, and that guy's, I could cry about it. I remember seeing them and not knowing who the hell Social Distortion was and going, every one of these words makes sense to me. And I looked around, and in a concert room full of punks, I was the weirdo with my long hair, looking like a hippie, Jesus wearing Birkenstocks at a Social Distortion show when I was 17, and everybody was cool to me. And I went, you know what? This is the way shit should be. This is how
you found
this
your
is
people.
it. Yeah. And it's always been, I've always wanted that in my community. I've wanted it in my kitchens. I've wanted it on my teams at work. If you come and you join and you be a part of it, and you can be yourself, but you got to look out for the others, then you got a seat at this table. And otherwise I don't give a damn about the rest of it.
Nice.
So
do you have the same fear about Mike Ness as Keith Richards as far as don't meet your heroes?
No, not as much. And I've met him briefly before, but I don't have the charismatic aura about him. I think Mike probably is comfortable on stage in front of that microphone. I don't think he's probably interested in hanging out otherwise. I think, I don't know. I feel like I have a better understanding of Mike than I do Keith Richards. I don't know why that is. But in a weird way, I have lower expectations that make me hold him in higher esteem. I think he's just an average dude. No, he's not average. I think personality wise, he would come across just as an average dude. But I think that, I don't know. I don't know. I've done some touring in my life. I don't know how somebody battling addiction stays sober on the road 150 nights a year. I think you need to be incredibly strong, have an incredible support system around you. I think all that's tough. I don't know. There's just a lot that I feel like I would empathize more with Mike. So if he blew me off, I'd go, keep going, man. Keep doing what you're doing. And thanks for what you've done. And otherwise, appreciate you saying, hey.
Why don't you ask?
I've tried. I've been told no, thank you. Yeah. In person. I've hung out with their guitarist, guy named Johnny. He calls himself Johnny Two Bags. We talk about vintage guitars and vintage pickups, like nerds and guitar geeks after shows. Mike goes on. I don't know that Mike could sit with a couple guys having drinks, or I don't smoke, but smoking cigarettes and having a beer after a show. I don't think Mike can do that in a healthy way. And I think he knows that. So, that's okay. I respect it, but I'd hang out with him if I could. I would hang out with him if I could.
All right.
Nice.
So
man. It's awesome.
All right. Guys, Troy, I'll see you this weekend. No?
Yeah, I'm gonna stop down Sunday, so you'll see me.
Okay, cool. Robyn, I'll see you in Tinley.
Indeed. See you there.
All right.
Big show
Thank
coming.
you both. It is a big show. I was going to hit you up for some breaking news or anything from Tinley, but there'll be time for that. We can share posts on Instagram and that stuff. So thank you. Audience that did hang out, thanks so much. Yeah, let us know what you think, and we'll see you guys soon. We'll leave it there.
Thanks, guys.
Everybody.
Appreciate it.